Welcome to the Whiskey and Wisdom Podcast, coming to you from the Cargo District Recording Studios in Wilmington, North Carolina, where we discuss the most fascinating topics of life. I'm Tyler Yaw with my co-host, Chris Kellum, and each week we interview a special guest to learn how they acquired their wisdom over a glass of whiskey. So, sit back, pour yourself a glass, and enjoy Whiskey and Wisdom. Welcome back, everybody, to the Whiskey and Wisdom podcast. This week, we have on Tim Howard. Most of you all probably know him as a real estate agent around town, Wilmington, North Carolina. And others might know you as the guy who runs the Man School and a book that is soon to be out, along as another podcaster. Man of many hats we have on today.
Yes, indeed.
But before we jump into too much right now, Chris has been Googling this bottle of whiskey here, the Jameson. Is it the Black Barrel?
Yes. So I know Jameson has some fun flavors. We had the orange a while ago, and there's the black coffee. Like they have a coffee version too.
Yep, I have that as well.
So we've always had the fun flavors.
I think they have an IPA now too.
Yeah.
Oh, that's another really good one to mix with ginger. If you ever wanted to try it.
I'm going to have to look into that.
Yep.
But Tim brought us a bottle of the Black Barrel from Jameson, which is super cool because they actually do these and they mature them for a little bit and they take it out and put it back in, and they put it in a charred and then a double charred barrel. Mm-hmm. So it's a bunch of different flavors. Mostly description wise is it has some spice and vanilla tones, which is kind of cool. But this version of Jameson is not for shots and picklebacks. This is more of a sit back and sip iteration of it, which I think is actually going to be kind of cool.
And unfortunately, Chris and I will be crying tonight because we are in the middle of 75 hard and we are not drinking. So we're going to be thinking about it every single night until the day we can have it. So
I got something to look forward to. You can celebrate when you get the end of 75 hard.
Exactly. Awesome. We will cheers with this one. We have another 62 days.
Yeah. I am doing a whiskey watches and wisdom event in November, so this could make a showcase there.
There you go.
I like that too.
But yeah, unfortunately, we can't cheers for the liquor, but we'll be drinking some water on that.
Well, a couple of reasons that we were talking before the show about why Jameson. So I'm 3/4 Irish, and I'm getting ready to go to Ireland, but I don't drink a lot of whiskey, and I don't know a lot about it. But a buddy of mine who passed away this summer, he and I went through ROTC together, at Gonzaga University, Go Zags. Yeah. And we were both field artillery officers, both Army Rangers, and he passed. But the last shot of Jameson, or last shot of whiskey I had with him was a shot of Jameson at Jack and Dan's Tavern, which John Stockton, if you guys know of John Stockton, all-time assist leader and steal leader in the NBA. He was a Gonzaga classmate of Terry and I's. But he now owns Jack and Dan's Tavern. His father and his uncle opened it years ago. So I thought, well, I remember early on in one of your early episodes, you talking about Jameson and ginger. So I brought some of the materials together for you to enjoy one, if not knowing that you guys are doing 75.
It's okay.
That's okay.
We will have it later with you.
Hey, man. Awesome.
It's a more recent thing that we started doing. So
yeah.
Heads up, you guys. The next couple ones will either be talking about whiskey or trying some fun non-alcoholic beverages.
Yeah.
There's
some options out there. So if you decide to do 75 hard too, you have those options.
Well, I admire you guys because, 75 hard is all about mindset.
Yeah.
And it's the self-discipline. And if you can do that and stick with that, and it's great that you've got the accountability with one another to do that, which we'll probably get into some topics related to the Man School. But, keep going, go after it, man. That's huge. You make that and then celebrate that. That'll be a huge win for both of you.
Yeah, definitely. I did it last year, and it was a huge game changer when it comes to mindset and mental toughness and finding a lot of time throughout the day that you didn't know you had. So it definitely helps you with that because you need to find time to read your book and get 2 workouts in and everything else involved. But enough about that. The first thing I want to touch on with you, because this is the least that I know about you so far, tell us about the Man School.
So the Man School is a coaching program. It's the coursework is called The Great Man's Legacy of the Man School. And I primarily have facilitated like mastermind groups through that process. There's a few guys here in town that have been through it, and then other people across the country. But it's about a 6-month process. It's about 22 lessons. And it really gets into focusing on all aspects of what we call the arena of life. There's kind of like 8 different areas of the arena of life. Things like your health. Like you guys are focused on 75 Hard right now. Your self-image, which has a lot to do with working on your mindset. Your intimate relationships, like with your spouses, your family. The environment, both in terms of your work environment and the environment that you live in. So we focus on really discovering what are the desires of your heart. It's like, I'm a person of faith, so it's like I believe that, God has gifted me with certain gifts and talents and has placed desires on my heart. It's like, so I help men to discover what are those things and then kind of unlock those dreams. So it's like, oftentimes we start out with big dreams in life, and then life happens and we go in a different direction. It's like, but those dreams that we have are still inside of us. It's like giving ourselves permission to dream again and to think really big. So it's like, what are the dreams or the goals that you have that are really, really excite you, but at the same time scare you to step out in faith? You guys started this podcast earlier this year, so you're stepping into something, something that's unique to who you guys are. And the same way I got started doing a podcast. It was like, I never anticipated doing that, but here we are. So the Man School really helps guys to discover what are the desires of the heart, get clear about what the dreams and the goals they have in life, then to start to design that life. Okay, and then develop the discipline, which like 75 Hard is a great example of developing the mental discipline to accomplish really big things. And then you got to detach from the outcome. It's like, so you got to get into massive action about whatever it is you're pursuing in life, whether it's business or personal or whatever. But once you get into action, it doesn't always go exactly the way you thought it was going to go. Yeah. So you got to adjust along the way and just keep working on making forward action. So I really describe it around the terms helping guys to uncover what are the dreams that they have inside, then develop the mindset and the skill sets to go accomplish those dreams, and really to build a balanced life. So you might be really good at work and business and creating money, but your relationship at home with your wife may suffer, or you're not a good father to your kids. And that was, me early on, and after leaving the Army and then going in industry, as I was so focused on my career, is like, that was like where a lot of my energy and mental energy and time and effort went into. I wanted to be successful in business, and I wasn't as successful in other areas of my life. So it's like really helping guys to, let's stay focused on what's really important here. Okay. Yeah, we want to be successful in business, but we're doing it for a reason. It's like we're doing it for our families. We're doing it to create wealth, not for wealth's sake, but for contribution to others. So that's some of the elements of what the Man School is about. And I got involved with the Man School because my co-author of the Mirror Book Project, which I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about, Maria Spears, initially she was a strategist and mindset coach with a woman's school. So the woman's school was growing and taking off, and they're realizing they needed to come up with a similar process for men, because here are all these women that are elevating and they're making huge impacts in their families and their communities, but their husbands or their boyfriends or their sons are getting left behind, and they don't know how to deal with these women that are really. So she had introduced me to the CEO and founder of what was then the Greatness Journey. Now it's called the Wholeness School. Ryan Donovan and his wife, January Donovan, developed the coursework for the Women's School, and they were going to launch the Man School. So Maria introduced me to Ryan Donovan. I talked to him, and I was the first guy to sign up to become a strategist and mindset coach in the Man School. So I was going through the process and learning all these things, and then at the same time I started guiding other men through the Great Man's Legacy coursework. So I was maybe a month or two ahead of these guys, but already applying these principles into my life and then helping to guide other guys through this masterwork process of the man school. So it's been really impactful to my life. Just like doing something like 75 Hard, if you really truly dedicate yourself to something like the Great Man's Legacy of the Man School, and you do the work, like we generally do video courses, and then there's like self-work. And if you do that work, and you're going to start to transform from the inside out. Mm-hmm. It's like as you start to change how you're thinking, you start to show up differently. If you start developing the discipline of the morning routines and the evening routines that are going to bring forth the life that you want to have, and you start to get more consistent with that and more intentional with it, you start to change. You start to become a better husband. You start to become a better business person. You start to feel healthier, so you start to show up differently, and then you start to have a different kind of impact. And then the contribution that you're able to make to your family and your community is different. And people start to say, well, Chris, Tyler, you look great. You've gotten in great shape. What have you been doing? And then you get the opportunity to talk about what you've been doing. And not only are you're focused on it from the health and fitness standpoint, but you're focused on it. Well, this is what I'm learning. This is the kind of impact it's making to me and the kind of change it's bringing into my way of thinking. And that's how I now generally will work with guys and get them going through this process where they're kind of going through a self-study process. And then I set up a thing where I just check in with them every couple of weeks. So then I provide a little bit of individualized coaching in addition to what they're getting through the coursework.
I see.
Gotcha.
And how do these men find the men's school?
The best way would be you could go to the Man School, but the best thing would be like go to my Facebook business page for the Great Man's Legacy of the Man School, connect with me via LinkedIn, or connect with me via Instagram at Tim Howard the Mirror. And they could just send me a message and say, hey, and that's how some guys reach out now. It's like, I have a former business colleague I worked with in the aluminum industry years ago. A few weeks back, he reached out and said, hey, Tim, I'm interested in getting some coaching from you.
Okay. So
you don't ever really know, like we're doing this podcast, you don't always know who you're impacting. Someone out there is listening, and that's like the goal for me oftentimes with the podcast is like, let's make an impact on at least one person's life today.
Yeah.
And if we can do that, then it kind of has a ripple effect, right? Yep. So you just never know who's listening, and then they reach out, and then you can tell them a little bit about the opportunity and decide if it's something they want to do or not.
Yeah. When men are coming to you and asking to join, what's one of the biggest obstacles that you see that most men are having these days?
Well, generally, if people aren't ready to make a decision right now, it's usually one of three things. One, it's either the objection, maybe financial. It's like they don't think that they have the money to do. I've had guys come back to me and say, well, why didn't you let me do the premium version of this so I'd have unlimited access? And I'm like, well, if you remember a year ago when we were having that conversation, it's like you were really worried about making this investment. But once they make that investment, what they don't realize up front is that they're really making an investment in themselves that is priceless. It's like you can't. It's like the investment that we make for the coaching process for the Man School. You couldn't get a 3-hour course at a university for that amount of price, but the value of that has a lifetime impact. I've got 2 master's degrees. I've got an MBA and a second master's degree in kind of applied behavioral science. But the learnings I got through going through the Man School, which is about a 6-month process, far outweigh anything I've ever learned educationally through, bachelor's degree in economics from Gonzaga, and MBA and master's of applied behavioral science. The life wisdom that I have now that I've learned and I've gained and I've applied in my own life far outweighs all that. And there was a lot of money spent on those things. So it's like, that's one objection. Another one is like, if you're married, it's like, gotta talk to your spouse about that. And you absolutely want to talk to your spouse about something like that. It's like, if you're getting ready to do something, you're going to invest a certain amount of time and energy into, just like whether it's 75 Hard or something else, like you better have their support and commitment.
Right.
Because you're going to start to not only have the impact of the time commitment you're making to it, but also you're going to start to change. You're going to start to show up in different ways. And you're going to want that support from your spouse when you're starting to because you're going to be wanting to have different kinds of conversations. It's like, I've been thinking about this and I really want to think about going after this dream or goal. Can we sit down and talk about that?
Yeah.
Okay. Because if you got to go through life together, right? And if you've got children and you got a family, it's really, really important to be aligned around what are you going after in your dreams. The other thing is people say, well, the time commitment. Well, you've discovered, just like you mentioned earlier about 75, you have a lot more time on your hands than you realize if you're more disciplined about how you manage your time. And that's one of the skills we really teach in the man school is developing morning routines. Okay, how much time are you spending with your fitness? How much quiet time are you spending? What are you doing to work on your subconscious mind to start to change your mindset and thinking about the dreams that you want to get after? Because in order to accomplish those dreams, you got to become a different person. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
You can't get to where you're going, remaining the way you are. So it's like you've got to start to become the man that is able to accomplish these goals. Right. And that's different than you were a few months ago.
Certainly. There was it's called the Mental Toughness Forum that I was watching a few weeks ago. And it was pretty incredible because it was all free. So it was some of the best speakers in the United States right now. So Ed Milet, Ben Newman, Andy Frisella, bunch of coaches for college athletes and business people and all kind of stuff. And they were talking about everything that you were just saying there. It's about that mindset you have to turn on. And saying that it's not where you are now, but if you can change where that mindset is, it's where you can go. And by cutting out the crap and replacing it with something that is worthwhile is all the difference.
Well, the key element, we have this quiz that we send to guys that are considering doing this, and it gets at these 8 different areas of the arena of life. And it's like these questions you ask yourself is like, where am I relative to this ideal kind of question? And it's just for you. I don't ever see it. People, but they get a score, and then you kind of see where are you at lower than maybe you'd want to be. So for me, when I first started, I really started focusing on my self-image, and I started focusing on wealth, not for the sake of wealth for wealth's sake, but it's like not only looking forward towards retirement. I just turned 60 in April, but how do I make a contribution and do the other things I get to do? I do overseas missions work, I do stuff that I'm giving. Homes for Heroes Realtor, I'm giving back 30% of my income. How many people do you know do that? Okay, so you've got to have a heart for giving, but you've got to be able to go out there and earn a living and be prepared to do those sorts of things and have a mindset that what I'm doing is not for me, it's for others. And, for me, ultimately, based on my faith, it's how do I serve the kingdom? How do I make an impact for the glory of God? But that's how I'm driven.
Yeah.
Yes.
But mental toughness, Ed, you mentioned Ed Milet and Andy. You guys are doing 75 Hard with Andy. They're actually partners in business in one aspect of the business. But, Ed's one of the podcasts that I listen to all the time. And I love him.
Yeah.
And his book is great. If you haven't read it yet, one more thinking.
I just ordered it. So yeah. For the 75.
That's great. And my co-author, Maria Spears, she's a big Ed Milet fan too. In fact, she first turned me on to him. I listen to Ed and Lewis Howes a lot. Love the guests that they have. They both have really excellent guests. So I'm always taking in that, and that, from a mindset standpoint, I'm always trying to stay open to learning and taking in new information. If we get into the mirror book, we'll talk about, the C of the reflect acrostic. It's clarify your inner circle. So your inner circle is not only who do you associate yourself with, but it's what are you letting into your mind? Like, who are you listening to?
Right.
Okay. Who's making an impression or an impact on you that's changing your thinking about how you approach life and how you approach the world? That's very, very, very important. So if you want to elevate to become a better version of yourself as a man, who are you hanging out with?
Yeah.
Are they helping you to elevate, or are they holding you back? Maybe you have a friendship that is important to you, but maybe to get to where you're going, you need to start to get a new mentor, or you need to start to go cultivate a relationship with someone that's already been there. Okay, that you can kind of follow their example to get from where I'm at right now to where I want to be. So I'm very intentional about cultivating relationships that will help me to elevate and get to a better place.
I'm really glad you bring that one up too, because for the people that don't know, I'm going to be on your podcast.
Yeah.
And with that being said, that was one of the things that I did want to talk about, because she said she's one of the things, part of the acrostic, and we can talk about that. But that's the one that I really want to discuss, because that's the one that's probably made the biggest impact on me. One of the many that made a big impact on me. So that'll be a fun conversation.
Well, you guys, what you're doing here with the Whiskey and Wisdom is kind of an example of living that out.
Right.
Okay. So you're connecting with people in the community that are people of influence or kind of energize you.
Mm-hmm.
You like their personality or whatever. You see what they're doing, and it's like, what can I learn from that person? What is that person doing that I could share and it could potentially make an impact for someone else? But it's upping your game.
Yep.
Because you got to get ready to have those conversations with those people that you're going to be having as guests. And then it's always amazing to me is, even people I know, sometimes I feel like I know pretty well. Mm-hmm. I don't know everything there is to know about them.
Yeah.
And then I hear more of their stories like, oh, wow, that is so cool. Let me connect you with this other person that, I had a guest recently. In fact, her episode's dropping soon, and one of her sons is like the number 2 guy at Tesla. It's like, whoa.
Oh, wow.
You're like, never would have known that.
Yeah, it is like he's in his late 20s, and here he is. He's at one of the most influential businesses in the world right now. And it's like,
that's crazy.
Here's her mom. I'm getting to have as a guest, and she's very influential here in the community. She works at Wilmington at the director of Center of Innovation and Entrepreneurship, Heather McWhirter.
Okay, yeah.
So that was really, really cool. It's like we got to meet one another, got to talk about different ideas, and then I got to learn a little bit more about her personally and her family and stuff like that. It's like, wow.
It's kind of crazy.
So it's like, here's a woman of influence that's making an impact in our community and beyond, but she's already made an impact on one of her children that's having tremendous success. It's like, okay, there's proof right there. She's been a good mother. Yeah. She's instilled some great values into this young man that's now doing amazing things. And so that's so cool.
I was listening to an Andy Frisella podcast just to bring it all back today. I think it came out either yesterday or today, and he was talking about anyone can have kids generally. Everyone knows how to do that.
Yeah.
What he was saying is, come back to me 20, 30, 40 years from that point and tell me how your kid grew up. It's like, and then that's when we can really start having a conversation. And so very similar point. You can tell about a child what their parents have gone through and how well they've been able to bring you up and everything. So I think that's just really interesting to take a step back as a new parent now to think about.
Well, I dedicated, for my portion of the book, dedication is to my 3 sons. So I have 3 sons that are ages 31, 29, 28 years old.
Okay. So
they will ultimately be my legacy.
Yeah.
It's like, it gets to that question, like, okay, what kind of guys have they become? What kind of a role model was I? And, there's some things I feel like I did well. And there's other things I feel like I wish I would have done better. But yeah, absolutely. They will be, and my dedication is, keep chasing your dreams. It's like, so a couple of them got some really big dreams that they haven't fulfilled yet, but I just want to encourage them to keep going after it. They have the ability to go and achieve those things. They may not realize it yet. They may not have the self-confidence yet, but I have the confidence in them if they want to go after it and get it, that they can make it happen.
That's great.
So we've mentioned podcasts multiple times, and you have a podcast.
Yeah.
Because I'm just swinging that direction now. But what is your podcast about?
So the podcast is called Reflect the Life You Want, which is the theme of the Mirror book, which is co-authored by Maria Spears. And the podcast is really about just having interesting conversations, much like you guys have with really interesting people. And it's like, what does this person, what have they experienced in life that they can share? We can help get the word out about whatever their business is or their nonprofit or whatever they're doing in life. But it's real more about, what have they learned in life that, if shared, could make an impact on somebody else's life?
Right.
And we were talking about, if we can impact one person's life, then the time we've invested together has been worthwhile.
Yep.
And it's really cool when I get the feedback from listeners of the show that's like, oh, that was so cool. And it's just like, it just affirms it. It's like, okay, we're doing something good. This made an impact. And I've shared it with all my sisters or friends or whatever it is, the feedback you get. But Reflect the Life You Want is the theme of the book, The Mirror, and reflect is an acrostic.
Yep.
So the R stands for to recognize the power to change. And each one of us has the ability within us to make a change. We're not victims of our past, okay?
Right.
And that's one of the things a lot of people go through life thinking about, well, I'm this way because, well, actually every thought is optional.
Mm-hmm.
So I get to choose what I think about. You know, I can make a different choice. I can think about the past differently, and I can start to move forward in a different direction. The first E of the reflect acrostic stands for to each day to be grateful. So, you know, I may not have achieved everything I want to achieve yet, and I've got these really big dreams, but, you know, if I'm grateful for the things that I already have, and I really focus on being grateful for those things, the relationships I have, the experiences I have, the business that I have, then I'm likely to have more of those good things come into my life. So there's a Zig Ziglar quote years ago that Maria and I kind of talk a little bit similarly, but it's like, the more grateful I am, the more grateful I become, and the more things come into my life to be grateful for. So, yeah, you may not have achieved or accomplished everything you want in life, but if you can stay focused on being grateful for, like, I got to go to the gym this morning, 5 a.m., got my ass kicked, you know, by the coach, and then I got to go watch the sunrise at the beach, and it was glorious. It was gorgeous. It's like just living here, getting the opportunity to go do that, that helps me get my mindset right and ready for the go. So recognize the power of each day, be grateful. The F stands for to feel now what you imagine it will be when. So Einstein said, you know, our imagination is the most powerful thing that we have. Our minds, our ability to think about what could become and then go after that. And then pulling the power of our emotions helps us to propel forward into whatever it is that we want to get. So our minds don't know the difference between what is here and now and real versus what we imagine it will be. Doesn't know. So we can start to work on a subconscious level to feed it the information we want to feed it, to start to have that emotional response now. So if I can hold that, it's like, yeah, I may not have gotten to the end of 75 days now, but I know when I accomplish that goal what that's going to feel like, and I'm going to feel really good about that. But it's not about accomplishing the goal. It's about who's the man I'm becoming along the way. Yeah. If I can feel good about having the self-discipline and helping me with the confidence to do that consistently over and over, if I can do that, I can do anything. Trust me. And I got through Ranger School. I got to recycle through the jungle phase. And so I got to spend some extra time down there. Incredibly mentally challenging. But imagining whatever it is, the goal that you have, and getting your emotional state behind that is really, really powerful. The L of the reflect acrostic stands for to love yourself and to let others know you love them. So it's this idea you cannot give from an empty cup. So just like taking care of our health and fitness, our body, you know, everything flows from that. It's like our mind, our emotional health, our spiritual health, our physical health all flows from our body. So we've got to take care of ourselves. But we have to be intentional about thinking positively about ourselves. Like I used to use as a script for myself or an affirmation, I love and accept myself. I love and accept myself, because I didn't always feel that way. I didn't always have a positive self-image of myself. And there's still things that, you know, you struggle with from a self-image standpoint. But as a gift, if I can show up in a way that I'm showing love and gratitude towards other people in my life, they're going to pick up on that. Right? Just like in business or anything. You know when a customer walks in the door at the jewelry store, Chris, that, you know, you can sense right away what's the vibe coming off this person. So, but you've got to show that love and care and concern for them no matter what, right? To be able to do that, you've got to have that good, strong self-image within yourself to be able to do that. So that's the L chapter, love yourself and let others know you love. The second E is to energize your thoughts towards that which you intend to be. So it's like if you've got a goal or you've got a mindset around an element of who you want to become, you got to be intentional about thinking about that. So for me, like in the Man School process, we have this, we could write out this standard, like each of the areas of life, we write out like 3 scripts or 3 affirmations around what is it do I want to become in order to be that. So it's like, okay, if I want to be a stronger self-image, like I'm confident, right? I love myself. I'm respected. You know, those are kinds of thoughts that I have about myself that are different than having the self-doubt of like, oh, I don't know if I'm good enough, right? It's like, I'm a man of action. I'm disciplined. I am confident, whatever. Those are those kinds of things. And then setting it towards goals and dreams, it's like getting clear about myself. What is it that I'm going to become? And then getting after that. And then the C, as you alluded to, Tyler, clarify your inner circle. It's both like who we associate with, but just we've talked a lot about podcasts. It's like, what are we putting into our mind? What are we putting into our bodies as food? What are we listening as music? Where are we spending our time? Are we spending a bunch of time watching negative news on television? Or are we reading something to change our mind and uplift our? So clarify your inner circle is both about people, and it's also about what am I taking in to change my thinking about who I am, who I want to become, and how do I want to show up in the world. And then the T is thoughts are key, think it, create it. So it's like, whatever we think about is what we're going to become.
Right.
So the T chapter kind of brings all these other concepts together, but it starts to get real clear about, okay, this is what I'm going after. Okay, how am I going to become that, what I want to become? What are the goals and the plans? Who am I going to get involved to help me? What are the different things that are important to me right now? So the reflect the life you want it's really a way of stepping into becoming who the person that you want to be, and then developing a roadmap to actually go do that. So like in 75 Hard, you have different things that you got to do every day. Right. Morning routines, evening routines. If you do those kinds of things, much like we teach in the Man School, develop those kind of morning routines, evening routines, and you apply those principles further beyond 75 days, think about what is it that you want to become? Who's the man I want to be? What kind of business do I want to have? What kind of really big dreams? And start to apply those principles of the reflect the life you want to your life every day, taking 75 Hard, extrapolating that out to what are my 5-year goals, 10-year goals? Okay. What do I need to do to become the man that's going to accomplish those goals?
Right.
And have that discipline and have the mindset to become an Ed Milet, an Andy Frisella, whatever it is that you want to be, and have that kind of impact and influence. Those are the kinds of things to think about.
Yeah, you touched on something that was big during the Mental Toughness Forum. And the way that they worded it was standards over feelings.
Yes.
So when you talk about those routines, this is my standard. This is what we do every day. Not, I woke up this morning, I feel a little bit tired because my nighttime routine was a little bit longer than the day prior.
Yeah.
It's the standard over the feelings. You always hit your standard. And the other thing that I'm sure you talk about too is you can hit a goal. Then after you hit that goal, then what?
That's the exact feeling I had after I finished Ranger School.
Yeah.
And I talk about in the book, it was about a 4.5-year journey to do that, to accomplish that one goal. It's like you pin the tab on, which is a huge accomplishment. I mean, there's like less than 1% of the Army even attempts it, and only about 50% make it. It's interesting. I listened to David Goggins, he went through BUD/S 3 times to become a Navy SEAL. He was Air Force. He talked about in his book, You Can't Hurt Me, that it was tougher for him to get through Ranger School than Navy SEALs. And I was kind of shocked by that. It's like, wow, I always imagined that, getting through BUD/S would be tougher just based on what I saw and observed.
Right.
Yeah.
But what I didn't realize is that when he was in BUD/S, he got to go home at night.
Oh.
He said when you're in Ranger School, it's just like you're in the suck continuously. It doesn't end until, just like you've been deployed, Chris.
Yes.
It's like you're in that suck, you're in that environment, you're in that stress until you get home. Yeah. It's hard to detach from that. And so, so I can't remember the original question you talked about, but having that mental toughness, I think accomplishing a really big goal sometimes can be a letdown. So we talk about it in the Man School. We talk about it in terms of summit goals. It's like, so if I'm to achieve this really big thing I have out here, I might have a 6-month goal.
Yep.
Right.
What's it going to take me to get to there? Then I might have a year goal. Then I might have a 2-year goal, 3-year goal, 5-year goal. And the end game may be this really, really big goal. So we try to have summit goals you accomplish things, because as you accomplish goals, you gain self-confidence. And I was listening to a podcast, a lady who does a lot of coaching with other women talked about this idea of a how mindset versus a have done mindset. So the how mindset, the emotional state that might come up with is I'm not sure how to do this because I've never done it before, as opposed to a have done mindset. So like with Maria Spears and I, my co-author, launching a book. Neither one of us has ever launched a book, but we've done other things.
Yeah.
We've developed materials for coaching. We've spoke things. We've done email campaigns. We've done podcasts. So there's elements of things toward the book launch that we already know how to do. So it's like, okay, let's build on what we already know how to do. And then the things that we don't know how to do, let's go learn from someone who's done it really well. Like someone like Chandler Bolt, who, runs a self-publishing school. It's got a book called Published. So that's kind of like the roadmap for how to launch a book. Okay. And you can pay someone to coach you on how to do that, or you can just go learn and watch somebody else that's done it really well and apply what they've done well. So accomplishing goals. Yeah. The discipline of, okay, I've accomplished this one thing, then on to the next thing, as opposed to I've accomplished this and then falling back to my old ways,
Right.
which is easy to do.
That's why I'm doing 75 hard again. So I did 75 hard the first time and did fantastic, and I kept it up for quite a while.
Yeah.
And I looked at myself in the mirror, right? And a couple months ago, and I was like, what in the heck happened to that guy that I was just not even a year ago after 75 hard?
Yeah.
Let's jump back into this again. And knowing that I've been able to complete it before, it almost hurts worse to look back and say, what did I get myself back into?
Yeah. Well, if you haven't already read or listened to the audiobook for Atomic Habits by James Clear, it's great because he talks a lot about mindset, but really around building the habits that we need to have for success and a lot of the psychology behind that. And, guys like Ed Milet, you talked about Andy Frischel, those kinds of, they apply those kind of principles to their lives every day. And it's like, okay, for the rest of us is like, how do we do this and do it well consistently? Another great book, The 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma. He also wrote more recently The Everyday Hero Manifesto. Two great books. If these ideas resonate with you and you want to learn more, or wait for my book to come out, The Mirror, but some stuff that's readily available. And those are kinds of things that I share with other people. I get a really good book that I've read, or I listen to a really good podcast. It's like, I want to share that with other people in my life that I know that are aspiring to do bigger and better things. It's like, I want them to know what I know now or what I've been exposed to, because I want to see you guys have success and everything that your dreams and goals are that you have in life. So I was like, here.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Go for it.
What made you want to jump into creating and being an author of a book?
Well, the book idea first came about in 2006.
Okay.
So I had led the turnaround of a local business that had been failing for about 4 years. I initially came into it as the human resources manager, and within about 6 months was the general manager. And it was owned by a parent company out of the area, and they'd been losing money for about 4 years in a row. Okay. And we're going through all this change, and I was applying a lot of these ideas. I'd been through this second master's program kind of centered around applied behavioral science when I worked in the aluminum industry. And a lot, the first year was a lot around emotional intelligence and really understanding yourself. That's where I first got exposed to the communication model called the interpersonal gap, which I've now adapted and added the mirror to. But the second year was really around how do you lead change in organizations. If you know and understand yourself better and you have strong emotional intelligence, then you can have better understanding of how you're impacting other people, what kind of influence are you having. So all those learnings I had to that point in my life when I was in that situation, very, very, very challenging business situation. It was like, and I had this franchise business that I was owning at the same time, and I'm investing all my energy into leading this turnaround. And it was like, what am I learning from this that I could benefit, and what could other people benefit from it down the road? At the same time, I was going through a very challenging period in my marriage at the time. So there was a lot of personal learning, a lot of personal growth. At the same time, there's a really challenging business situation. It's like, what do I want to learn from this? What could other people benefit from? So it was interesting, these concepts back then, 14 years ago, or more than that now, 16 years ago.
Yep.
Now they're all being affirmed for me, because it's like all these other people are talking about similar ideas. So like when I started coaching with the man school, it's like I started exposing some of their materials. And Maria, my co-author, she was already coaching the women's school and getting to be exposed. It resonated with her right away.
Yeah.
So then we're coaching other people these sets of ideas, and it's like I started going through the man school coursework and started coaching. It's like, man, the ideas I had for the book so much resonate with these concepts that we're teaching. So it was things that like were already within me innately that I'd learned in life, and ideas that I had that had helped me to be successful. Is like they were being affirmed by these other, great thoughts. Most of these ideas, it's not original thinking. Mm-hmm. But it's applying the ideas and actually going and doing it.
Exactly, yeah.
And that's where the difference is between the average person and the person that's really at the top of their game. It's the discipline. It's like the discipline of the consistent daily habits.
The other thing, too, that I've noticed is it doesn't have to be hard. It's usually the simple things is what you overlook the easiest. Mm-hmm. So one with the 75 hard is the picture. The picture is the easiest thing, but it's one of the easiest things to overlook. I started doing the Live Hard program, and that's how I failed the Live Hard program, because I forgot to take the progress picture.
Yeah.
And beyond that, too, the things that I always thought, in hindsight, it's not as silly, but thinking about it at the time is like the manifestation type of process, and just thinking about like, oh, where do I want to be? I thought was silly. I am statements I thought were silly. And I started looking at these successful people, and the one thing that they would say over and over and over again is they manifested every day. Mm-hmm. They would say their I am statements every day, out loud in a mirror, looking at themselves and actually mean it. And I was like, well, evidently I was the silly one, because all of these people that I look up to all did these exact same, what I thought were small things, but come to find out were bigger.
I first started learning about the power of affirmations from Louise Hay. She wrote the book, You Can Heal Your Life. And I actually met Louise out in San Diego. It's probably been, it's been over 10 years ago. I was at a book writing conference out in San Diego, and she was still living. So that's where I first learned about that set of ideas. And then in the man's school and the woman's school, we talk more in terms of scripts. It's like, here's a way of thinking about I am that may be different than the way you've ever thought about it before. And I share this with people. And Maria and I struggled. We thought about, should we write about this or not? And we just thought, well, it's a little bit on the edge. That might be a little too controversial, but I am, I believe, are the two most powerful words in the English language. And here's one is, it's because it's, what am I claiming about myself, right? What is the thought that I'm having about myself? Mm-hmm. And it can either be to the positive or it can be to the negative. But what if so the words I am are Yahweh, right?
Right.
So what if in using those two words that we're claiming about ourselves, that we're really stepping into who we were called to become? Mm-hmm. Like, what are the unique giftings and talents and callings that God has placed on your life? What if you actually, when you're saying that, you're calling in the power of the Holy Spirit? It's like, I am this thing that I'm intended to be. I was created to be this man. What if I truly stepped into that, and I truly believe that, and I claim that for myself, and I, whether in prayer or whatever your belief system is, what if I really stepped into that and believe that about myself? I am this thing. I may it. They say in habit formation, it takes anywhere from 21 to 66 days, whatever, just to begin a habit. So like 75 hard, it's like, it's going beyond that, right? Yep. But if you truly develop those habits of doing those daily activities every day, it'll start to become who you are. It won't be, because you start to break down that friction. It's like, okay, I can do this. I can get up and do my morning workout and do my evening work. I've got time. I can read 10 pages every day. Mm-hmm. I've got time to do that. It just becomes who I am. So I am, like for me in coaching and as a business leader, it's like, and as a podcaster, it's like one of these big ideas is like just to think that I'm a thought leader.
Yeah.
People are tuning in to hear what I've got to say. Mm-hmm. So if you truly believe that I'm a thought leader, then how's that showing up? In business, is like, are people willing to pay you for your coaching? Are people willing to tune in, and are people willing to advertise with you for your podcast? If you're trying to monetize that, it's like you have got to be an influencer. So you've got to believe that about yourself. I'm a thought leader. I'm taking the time to sit down, the three of us, to talk about a set of ideas, and we're going to talk some more about some other ideas. It's like we've got to believe that there's something about this conversation we're having that's worthwhile.
Definitely.
Yep.
That hopefully is going to impact somebody else's life that happens to listen and tune into the Whiskey and Wisdom podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe that's true.
Yeah.
My hunch is you guys probably believe there's some truth to that too, or you wouldn't be investing the time every week.
You're certainly
to do so.
that's exactly why we're here.
Yeah.
And something I need to do better of, because I have the Instagram, is telling Chris all of the great stories I see from time to time. And I actually received one today talking about how there was a quote in one of our past podcasts with Raylan, and it really resonated with them. And she shared it with one of her friends that really needed to hear it that day. So it was one person that was able to hear it from the podcast and then share it with someone else that really needed that like inspiration to move to the next level for them. And those are the type of stories that I never would have imagined come from something like this.
Can I share a little story kind of related to that? So two things. One is the last episode of my podcast called Rewrite Your Story. It's about a song. I've got a Nashville recording artist who's a singer-songwriter, and this other lady who's a friend of mine that started this organization called Freedom After the Trauma. Beautiful, beautiful song. So listen in to that. But one of the guys that went through the man school process was my brother-in-law, or former brother-in-law, and another guy locally. And this guy locally had a gift that he didn't realize. And he didn't have a strong self-image, strong belief about himself. But one of the things that he had a real good gift about was like, say he noticed something, Chris, that you do really, really well. He might write you a personal note, just say, hey, thinking about you, love what you do, and maybe a little scripture verse or something like that. So with the guys that were going through this mastermind group with me, he started sending these to everybody. He got like everybody's address and he started sending these notes out. So my former brother-in-law lives down in New Orleans area as a dentist. He takes these notes that are kind of like affirmations or scripts for him, because it's like, these are things that this guy's calling out about him that he admires in him. He takes these 3x5 cards, he puts it up on his mirror. And I've got a lot of stuff on my bathroom mirror that I look at every day, to work on my mindset. And so my niece walks in and sees these things and starts asking her dad about this. Yeah. And then her dad starts telling the story about this guy that going through the mastermind course with us and talking about her Uncle Tim. And, so it's like, you don't know sometimes how powerful of an impact you can have on somebody else and the ripple effect it can have. So the more intentional you are about sharing the gifts and the talents that you have and the ideas that are inspiring to you that might impact somebody else, you just never know what could happen. So it's like, keep doing the good stuff that you guys are doing with, getting in great guests with the Whiskey and Wisdom, talking about great ideas, because you're going to make an impact just like the feedback you got from that one person. I got a lot of great feedback on that last episode to Rewrite Your Story, because it's like, this is big stuff. This is transformation in people's lives. Mm-hmm. And, you share these ideas, and then somebody picks up on it, and like it can change their life.
Certainly.
So keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
And it's funny because we talked about this. Well, I mentioned it a while back, but because everyone has different energy, different vibes. But like if you are doing the affirmations, you're adjusting what I say, like your energy level to be where it needs to be, so you can receive these gifts. Because some people, if you don't see into the future, like if you don't plan goals, as you have like in your Reflect motto is like see yourself like where you want to be. So if you don't have those thoughts and those affirmations, you're not going to raise yourself to that person that you need to be to take in and really be ready for those things that happen. Because I remember at one point in time, I was like, I was like, I just want more money in my life. And so I was mentally like pushing myself. So, I'll have more money, but I didn't actually expect it to happen. And if you don't expect it to happen, when it does hit you, you're like, oh, well, I'm not prepared, so I don't know what to do. So yeah, it's more money, but if more money comes your way, then you're spending it the same way you were before. You just have to mentally, like you said, put yourself on and prepare yourself for the next level.
I've got a couple of things I keep on voice memo on my phone. I used to write out I've got a life script that I would write out every day as part of my morning. Lately, I've been more just listening. I have it recorded as a voice memo, and I listen to it. And it's a set of ideas around big dreams and goals that I have for my life. And then I have another one around coaching and being a strategist and mindset coaching. What do I believe about myself in order to be effective at that? But there's a big difference in the two words I will versus I am. And it's a huge shift. It's subtle, but it's a huge shift in mindset. And it's like if it's I will, it's something in the future that may or may not happen. Versus if I say I am, I already claim it. It's already going to be that way. I'm going to become this thing. And it's through that repeated affirmation, scripting, or writing it out is really powerful, or recording it and listening back to in your own voice and hearing yourself say this over and over again is very, very powerful, working on the subconscious. But you then will start to believe that. It'll start to shift over time. And even though there may be self-doubt at first, it's like, and then it's like, as I'm stepping into this and I'm becoming this thing, it's like, yeah, I need to get ready for greater abundance in my life. It's like, I need to learn how to manage money more effectively, because now I've got all this money flowing because I'm getting better at the business I do and creating wealth, because the more value you create for other people, then you're going to be giving more opportunities, right? So if you're good with what you're entrusted with, you're going to be entrusted with more. So you got to learn to become a good steward. So you got to learn how to manage your finance. You got to get your financial advisor, Tyler, there to help you to manage those things and set up for that success that you're going to have. But big difference in those two words, I am versus I will. So if you believe it, you claim it. For me, it's like I pray as if it's already occurred, and I just step into it.
I love it. Well, we are starting to roll up on our time today. That went by super fast.
For sure.
But I do have my last question for you.
Yeah.
So if you could tell your younger self one thing, what would it be?
Believe. Believe in yourself and believe in the dreams that you have, and believe for those things that come to your mind that you're dreaming about. Those were implanted in you for a reason. So believe that it's possible and step into that belief. I am.
Right.
And go do it. Because it's within you. If you can think of it, it's within you to achieve it. So believe that it's possible and go do it.
Yeah. Where did that wisdom come from?
Just, I think life experience is like, I didn't always have the strongest self-confidence, self-image, and I'm still always working on it every day. But it's like, I'm doing so many things that are different now than I did a couple of years ago that I wouldn't have imagined doing.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, and it's stuff that energizes me. So it's like,
right.
Oh, this is cool. This is what I enjoy. Let me figure out a way to go do more of this. Meanwhile, I got to keep doing this primary hustle over here, but let me figure out how to go do more some of this other stuff that I really enjoy that really seems to have an impact on other people.
Yeah, that's great.
Go reflect the life you want, man. So you got to become who you intend to become, and then the more you're that, then the greater impact and influence you're going to have on others.
Yeah.
Love it.
Thank you so much. Where can everyone find you and on the interwebs, and tell us a little bit when that book is going to drop and everything else, all the plugs that you have for yourself.
Yeah. So the Mirror book, the goal was to have it launched no later than November of this year, which it looks like I got the proofs today. So it looks like we're going to be having a website that'll be themirrorbook.com, and then there'll also be a website called reflectalifeyouwant.com. So the websites are being designed right now. The book is the first draft of the layout and the cover design we received today. So be looking for that later in this year. I do a lot of networking on LinkedIn, so you can find me on LinkedIn profile. You can find me on Facebook personally as Tim Howard. You can find me for my coaching business as The Man School, A Great Man's Legacy. My Instagram handle is Tim Howard, The Mirror. And then my podcast drops every Friday morning, Reflect a Life You Want. So you can find it on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. Go check it out. Have great guests, both locally and around the country.
Yeah.
And always looking for great people to have interesting conversations that can make a difference in everybody's lives.
Cool. Thank you.
Reverse brain fart.
I'm not editing that out.
Well, thank you for inviting me in to have me on your show. I've been listening and following and kind of, you've had a number of guests that are people that I know and friends of mine as well. And
Yeah.
it's like cool. It's, I just wish you guys great success in what you're doing and keep chasing your dreams.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Can't wait to come on your podcast as well. And I've been listening to yours too. So I'm excited to come on.
Well,
I look forward to it,
yeah.
to his podcast.
Well, I look forward to you guys accomplishing your goal and then being able to celebrate and crack open that lovely bottle of Irish whiskey.
This looks delicious.
I know.
So I just want to say thank you, everybody, for listening and putting up with us, just being silly. But thank you, Tim, for bringing this bottle of Jameson Black. I suggest all of y'all go try it out and tell us how it is.
Let us know.
And we'll give you our review at the Whiskey and Wisdom Watches event in November. But yeah, if you want to save anything, it should be our podcast. Download us on Spotify and Apple. Is it Apple Podcast?
Apple Podcast,
Yeah, see?
Spotify, Stitcher, all of that fun stuff.
Yeah.
See? It's so awesome. That's how I do every morning. I'm like, oh, it's here. Download it. And then I just play it when I walk through my neighborhood that has 0 cell phone service. So,
Yep. Make sure you hit the follow button, all the stars, reviews. Do the same thing for Tim's podcast, please. It helps us out.
Absolutely.
thank you.
All right. That's it for today. Thank you so much again, Tim. And we will cheers the water bottles today.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Yes. Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you.